So here we are at the Peanut, or the Peanut Plaza neighborhood of Toronto, Ontario. But before we start, this happened.
Hey guys, you guys are computer programmers. You're not about this street life. Don't dress like that, wearing the mask. You guys are getting wiped out. And come on, you're like 100 pounds altogether. You're young, good kids.
These kids have no guidance or consequence these days, I tell you. Okay, so here we are approaching the Peanut, or Peanut Plaza, from the north. The reason they call this neighborhood the Peanut is because this section of Don Mills Road splits around this plaza and around another portion of land that contains 2 schools, a church, a hockey rink, and a bunch of parks. And the shape that Don Mills forms around this island is that of a peanut. So the surrounding neighborhood is now called the Peanut, or Peanut Plaza. An old buddy of mine had a father who was a police officer in this neighborhood back in the 1980s. And he said it was colloquially called the drive-through because out-of-towners would know to come to this neighborhood, or to the plaza specifically, to be able to find drugs with ease. That does not seem to be the case these days from what I can see. The properties are well kept. Other than those dorks, there doesn't seem to be any sign of gang activity or thugs in the area. I don't see anybody strung out on drugs. Families are walking around enjoying peaceful walks. There's no graffiti. There's very little garbage. It actually seems like a harmonious neighborhood. It's not somewhere I'd choose to live. I'm not a city boy at all. But for city folk, it seems pretty alright. Here's the plaza. Pretty standard plaza. You've got the beer store, Chinese food, drugstore, Max Milk, bubble tea, pizza, Dollarama, I don't know, North Korean seafood, perhaps, Indian cuisine. So here we go around again, but this time the camera facing inwards, or to the east. Now, from what I can tell, without looking it up on the internet, just from my observations alone, the demographics seem to be Arab, East Indian, Chinese, and again, I think I'm seeing a lot of Ukrainians and perhaps some Serbians, I don't know, Eastern Europeans of some sort. But oddly enough, the people playing beer league baseball in the park were almost 100% white. Maybe they're from outside the neighborhood. I'm just telling you what I see. I'm not looking these stats up or anything. So I believe this is the middle school or the high school, I'm not sure. Yeah, there you go, Woodbine Middle School. And I believe this is the high school, Georges Vanier. Georges. So the neighborhood seems to be comprised of mid to high-rise apartment buildings situated next to townhouse complexes, which are surrounded by old 1950s and 60s suburban homes in the back. There doesn't seem to be any metro housing or government housing in the neighborhood. A lot of these townhouse complexes are very old though and do have a government vibe to them. I'm not sure if any of the townhouse complexes are co-ops or not. I found that you couldn't really drive into any of them. They all had one major parking lot and then you had to walk in to the neighborhoods themselves. I think there was only one townhouse complex in the immediate area that I could actually drive through. So I think this was the only townhouse complex that you could actually drive through. And this is a privately owned neighborhood called the Rusty Crestway, which is a funny name. And I think it is comprised of rental units and people who own, but I think there's a overall property management firm that owns the entire neighborhood, like some sort of a condo development. Kind of a strange system. Pretty nice neighborhood though, for city folk. I don't know if you guys can see it, but straight ahead back there is downtown North York, which is the Young and Shepherd neighborhood. That would be the downtown area of North York. It's weird in North York, you see a lot of these condo townhouse developments that were built back in the 70s and 80s. They have this weird theme. They have the name Way at the end of them. There's the Blueberry Patch Way and the Garden Way and this way and that way and the Rusty Crest Way, and there's all sorts of them, and they all seem to be in the northern portion of North York, between Leslie and Don Mills and Bayview. I guess if you live in the area and know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I'm probably speaking another language to you. Sparrow Ways is another one. There's just all these old townhouse complexes that have the name Way attached to the end of them. Just a weird observation I've seen. Again, all these townhouse complexes here are virtually inaccessible by vehicle. I think my Nana used to live in that building when I was really, really young. I remember my Nana on my mother's side lived in the city for a while, and we used to come down here when I was a kid. I think it was this neighborhood. I'll have to ask my mom. More inaccessible townhouse complexes. And here we are going south. This is pretty much the southern limit of the Peanut Plaza neighborhood. That's another apartment complex looking south. It's not technically part of the Peanut, but I thought I'd show you guys this anyways. A high density apartment complex with not one but two well kept pools and really nice parks for the kids. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this neighborhood.